I'm Ron Berger from Expeditionary Learning, and I'm proud to say that one of the things that distinguishes Expeditionary Learning from other high-performing school networks is our focus on teacher leadership and, most importantly, our focus on student leadership. It is my pleasure to introduce to you 4 students, Mohammed, Kaylee, Aaron, and Joanna, from King Middle School in Portland, Maine.
My name is Joanna Quinn, and I'm an 8th grader at King Middle School in Portland, Maine.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Kaylee Martínez y yo soy una estudiante de 8º grado en King Middle School in Portland, Maine.
صباح ونعكسن مجايجو Mohammed Noor فصل كسيدة عن دكتور King Middle School, Portland, Maine.
Parudis, iminanonas aren kilajane, aren kilajan, yes uterot tasadana mi vis King Middle School gatam, Portland, Maine in Mech.
In July of 2009, Ms. Claire and Ms. McDonald, our social studies and language arts teachers, went to Little Rock, Arkansas to learn about the struggles of racial segregation in the civil rights era through the eyes of Little Rock 9. They participated in a learning expedition for educators, sponsored by Expeditionary Learning and led by Ron Berger and Gladys Graham.
As hard as it is for us to believe, 22 years ago, before our principal, Mr. McCarthy, arrived and Expeditionary Learning began, King was a segregated school, where students are separated not by race, but by their perceived ability. They were tracked into 7 different groups, and this made for a difficult place for learning. Higher level classes felt smarter. They had more power than their classmates in other sections. This led to a school filled with bullying and violence. Fighting was a constant issue when Mr. McCarthy arrived in 1988. He was shocked at how students in different groups were receiving a different quality of education. And so, for our kickoff of Small Acts of Courage, he created an activity which simulated the situation at King when he arrived.
Believe it or not, this is how King students were organized 20 years ago. Every group read from cards, describing what it was like to be a King student way back then.
In the below average group, our teachers don't really know us. They call us those kids.
In the challenge group, at least one of us gets kicked out of class every day.
If a below average kid gets in a fight with an advanced kid, we get suspended and the advanced kid gets a ride home with the guidance counselor.
Our field trip was to the jail to see our future.
In the past 20 years, the population of King has changed drastically. When Mr. McCarthy arrived, 3% of the students are foreign-born. Today, that rate is 26%, with 32 different languages spoken. While King is the most diverse middle school in the state, on statewide testing, we outscore the state and district in all academic areas. Today, King students learn through 2 expeditions a year. Students are engaged, focused, and active in their school. The expeditionary learning model and steady leadership have changed the school from a school for some to a school for all.
An important part of any expedition is finding a compelling topic. Our compelling topic for Small Acts of Courage was civil rights, a topic that gave us the opportunity to do an in-depth investigation, learn what it was like to walk in another person's shoes, and motivated us to dig deep. The first guiding question for our work was, what role did individuals play in the civil rights movement? The second was, what roles did leadership, economics, political power, and communication play? Our investigation of these forces and the different people that were involved in the movement began with a focus on important events of that time period.
My name is June Mackenzie, and I was born and raised in Portland, Maine, and I'm at King Junior to tell the children about my civil rights experience.
After they've been around, My name is Harold Pacious. I'm here at King Middle School to talk about the civil rights movement back in the 1960s as part of the March on Washington and other events.
Arnie Duncan came to King, and we shared our work on the expedition's Small Acts of Courage. In fact, he asked us for a book to bring back to the White House, so we sent him with 2 signed copies.
Portland classes may not be in session quite yet, but King Middle School students had no problem coming in a little early to show off their hard work to Secretary Arnie Duncan. These portfolios are the result of weeks of independent and group learning, both inside and outside the classroom, the so-called expeditionary learning program that makes King different. Duncan says he's impressed.
This whole idea of expeditionary learning, this is how kids want to learn.
Finally, as King alumni, we will work with our former teachers to find other untold stories in our community. And we wish the next group of students that engage in this special project the same success and personal connection that we experienced. Thank you for letting this story live on today.
Muchas gracias.
Omasinti.
Thank you for being such a gracious audience.